be up at this time, but I wanted to bring a live reaction to what was happening. And I think that the show leaves a lot to talk about, a lot to wonder what it means for the future of the MCU. But it's also some questionable stuff that happened in this finale. I don't think it's all necessarily perfect, but we're definitely going to discuss it. But all right, so now that we got everything set up and we're together, let's talk about the finale of WandaVision. Now, this is a show that keeps subverting expectations, right? The speculation and the rumors and everything coming into the finale. I think this finale did was just solidify the fact that this show it's just a different type of show. It didn't end the way pretty much anybody thought of. We didn't get that major cameo that a lot of people were saying, and again, that was something that was hyped up by the community, not necessarily by Marvel itself. Wanda had mentioned, or Elizabeth Olsen, I should say in this case, hyped and talked about a major cameo, saying a Luke Skywalker level cameo, and people took that and ran with it. And the way that question was always presented is that somebody asked her if there's going to be a Luke Skywalker level cameo, and she said she can't wait for people to see who pops up. And people have taken that and breaking it down, and people said that it couldn't be the Evan Peters thing because that's not the level of Luke Skywalker and Mark Hamill coming in. That was never hyped by Marvel. And so if anyone who's disappointed by that, again, us as nerds, we get really caught up in these expectations that we set, or these little pieces and breadcrumbs, and then the community makes it large, and then we forget that it was never actually Marvel who made that. So apparently the cameo that was referenced more than likely probably was Evan Peters. Now, I know people are going to say that isn't a Luke Skywalker level, but it is what it is. And then Paul Bettany made another comment, which was then kind of convoluted into the Luke Skywalker level cameo. And again, this was two different actors who said something about a cameo at two different times. So it was never necessarily meant to be true that what Elizabeth Olsen said was going to be a major cameo was the same person that Paul Bettany was excited to work with. Turns out that was probably more than likely him acting against himself. And then, overall, I talked about it on the last time I did a live stream. Had a lot of us expected a larger villain to show up in this show. It wasn't that. That did not happen either. Now, we did get some seeds planted into what future Marvel projects could be, but we're not going to talk about that just quite yet. Let's talk about. We're going to start from the bottom up, because I know a lot of people want to talk about the Vision thing and probably want to hear me talk about the overall ending and everything. But what I want to talk about first is Quicksilver. Evan Peters, Pietro. There's a lot of speculation, of course, that this was the Fox universe being brought in. I had always said that there was not a single sign that Evan Peters was playing Peter from the Fox X-Men universe. That was ultimately proven to be true, and that's not to just pat myself on the back. There was never. If you look at what this show has done, right? Even with Evan Peters showing up, him talking about Sokovia and their past and kind of avoiding it. If he was the Peter, not Pietro, from the Fox universe, he wouldn't have any memory of Wanda or Sokovia at all, because in that universe they weren't from Sokovia. And again, Wanda, it was a cut scene, but they weren't twins. Wanda was actually younger than Peter in that universe. So that was, again, I don't want to pat myself on the back or anything, but it turns out that this is Ralph, the Ralph that had been mentioned by Agatha throughout the show, her husband, that she had some bracelet around him to make him think that he was Quicksilver. Now, how he got the powers of Quicksilver and the super speed, they never really did explain that at all. But they didn't really have to. Once they found out that he was actually Ralph and that Agatha was using him, kind of all just made sense. She's a witch. She probably was able to bestow some type of power on him. Who knows? But this was one of those things that and my theory was not all the way correct on this. I said, while I did say that, that I doubted that he was the Fox Universe's Quicksilver, I had said that I think he's, at the end of the day, at the end of this show, he was going to be the new Quicksilver of this universe. Whether it's him being, Aaron Taylor Johnson's version of Pietro, his soul or his memories are put in there. Doesn't look like any of that's going to happen. This was just great casting by Kevin Feige. Great way, in a show that's very meta in a lot of ways. Him casting Evan Peters was just the ultimate gotcha to the nerd community, because he knows that we were going to have a lot of speculation into what it was going to get people talking. And that's what that was ultimately meant to do. And that's exactly what it did. It got us talking about it. It got us talking about the show, what it could mean, all different types of stuff. So it's great casting by Kevin Feige on that one, and the whole Marvel staff. But we jump into this episode right where we left off from the last one. The action, it kicks in very quickly. We get Agatha and Wanda, a brief battle between those two, and what that turned it felt like it was over quickly, right? When she threw that car and they went through the house and looked under the boots, it was like, wow, could that be it? Because immediately after that, we get the spectral Vision, aka White Vision, the original Vision, show up, and you have that moment. A lot of speculation into this too, and I think this is something that I maybe had thought was going to happen, even if I didn't say it out loud, is that I thought that at the end of this show, what was going to happen is that original Vision body, Spectral, aka White Vision, was going to see Wanda and snap out of it. And so when he initially walks up to her and he's like, Wanda, and his hand goes on her face, and it seems like they're going to have a nice embrace, for a show that, with Agatha disappearing the way it is, the way that she did, I wouldn't have been surprised if that part, something was kind of fixed rather quickly. Now, we know that didn't happen. The Vision that was created in the Hex shows up very quickly, and the battle starts raging on there. And I love how, they don't slow down really a lot for, anything to be explained. Vision kind of knows what's going on, because he kind of has figured things out over the course of things, and that, he doesn't feel like he's the original Vision. And he even had the line that, hearing the story of what happened with Wanda and Vision originally felt like it would happen to a different guy. So all of that, him really, going right into the fight and kind of knowing what's happening, it just made complete sense. It makes sense to what that was. But let's talk about that for a little bit. The what happened with Vision. Now, I have some overall problems with the way that this ended for me. As a theological and a think piece, and just having these two Visions fight each other. And it was great seeing them fight each other, for one. Hats off. I think they did miss an opportunity for this Vision to be voiced by James Spader and have Ultron's voice, but that's nerd, aka fan casting and hopes. But what we ultimately get with these two characters, the conversational piece, that kind of culminates in the White Vision realizing who he is. And it's in the description, full spoilers if you don't know so by this point, but we get these two robots talking about what it means to exist, basically. And I forget the name of the ship that they brought up, and they talked about if the wood planks are eventually removed, is it the original ship? And then if those replacement pieces are then replaced with the original pieces, are they both the original ship? And him getting through to White Vision and breaking through the programming, in that way, it just made sense. And then having him ask for permission, saying, "May I?" Because the spectral White Vision is still kind of you can tell he's he's thinking, he's processing, and they both say that they don't have the Mind Stone anymore. And then he kind of touches him, and he does that thing that he's been doing with characters of kind of breaking them out the spell, and we see Spectral Vision get his memories back. We see flashes of everything that happens. He gets his memories back. But this is where my issue comes in this, and we'll still get into the finale and bits and pieces there. But where my issue then comes in with what they decided to tell with the Spectral Vision is that he gained his memories back and then almost immediately left after everything, like seeing Wanda be battling another witch, knowing that that's going on. And it was very weird too. Like nobody ever really addresses Agatha throughout this show. Like, she's standing in the background. Even when the soldiers come up, everybody's so focused on Wanda, and I really did think that they were going to go into, like, maybe Agatha was also a figment completely of Wanda's creation, and maybe they didn't see it. Like, my thoughts were going all over the place with this, because Vision, even in what she's doing, neither Vision really ever interacts with Agatha. And then even when the military personnel show up, they're so focused on Wanda being the threat that you can see Agatha is doing something. They don't even address it. But I digress there. But where my issue with where this ends with Spectral Vision is just this. For everything that we know about the original Vision, from Age of Ultron up until when he died in Infinity War, I just don't see Vision gaining all his memories back, kind of knowing what's going on at this point. The fact there's another Vision there, the fact that Wanda's there, the fact that he died and came back. We saw him gain those memories back, and seeing his death, and the fact that he interacted with Thanos. He just flies away and leaves. Now, I get being overwhelmed, but everything that we know about Vision is that he loves Wanda Maximoff. He saved her at the end of Age of Ultron. And that was the original spark. We see the way that they look at each other, and then everything's kind of fleshed out from there. So are we to believe that Vision, no matter what's going on, the original Vision, that he gets his memories back and then leaves Wanda, just flies off, just dips out, leaves everything? I just don't see that happening with the Vision in the way that he's been set up in the movies thus far. And that's that version of Vision. But let me know what you guys think about it. That is my biggest sticking point overall throughout the show. Like, I get it. It didn't have some of the things that we hoped as fans that it would have. And that's perfectly fine. I don't hold that against the show, because our expectations aren't on the creators of this show. But you've done such a great job at paying respect to the tragedy that Wanda has been through, and really fleshing out what we've seen over the movies, but just giving her grief a vessel in this show, so that we feel the story that she's been through. But for Vision to just fly away and leave, I don't know. To me, that just causes some problems. And I get it, the way that the show ended, and we'll get into that too. You can't kind of have two Visions just walking around, and some of the impact of the way that they ended the show would have been taken away if there's just the original Vision is just there. But I think that there could have been a different way to go about that. I just, to me personally. But, I digress. We'll talk about that. Let's get into this character. Let's get into Agatha Harkness, who really is the overarching main villain of this show. And I said it then, and a lot of people there, I didn't break this. It was clearly outlined in the show. But that Yo Magic commercial that we got throughout this, in episode 6, I believe, it fully explained what was going on. And I've said that before. It fully explained basically what the show was going on and who the villain was. Now, some of us thought it was going to be Mephisto. Some of us thought it was going to be Nightmares. It could Baron Mordo. It could have been some other characters. But overall, what that was telling us is that was Agatha Harkness. That was her goal in this show. She wanted to feed on the magic. When you look at everything in that commercial and the way that was played off, even the way that the kid decayed was very much the same way that Wanda decayed over the course of this episode as Agatha was stealing Wanda's power. So, Agatha, the big bag of this show. And I think that, for us and anyone who kind of thought that it was going to be a super big bad that's gonna play out over the course of maybe MCU movies, I think we kind of souped ourselves up, and we set ourselves up to be disappointed there, only because it's already been said that where this Wanda story picks up in Doctor Strange 2, you won't necessarily need to see WandaVision. So the way that I kind of look at this show is that this was a long prequel, basically, to where Wanda is going to be in Doctor Strange 2. Now, they'll have some explaining to do for certain things and how she's so powerful, and the fact that she does have the Darkhold, which, another thing, at this point now, what we can take away from this is that Kevin Feige has said, fuck Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anything that happened there, we can't even take, and it's been proven canon at this point for anyone who watches close enough that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon in the MCU. Netflix universe probably isn't going to be canon in the MCU. Even if we do, I know there are a lot of rumors that Daredevil may show up in Spider-Man. Even if that's true, unless they specifically do something that shows that that's the same version of the characters, we might as well throw that whole thing away. And the reason why I say that is the Darkhold was a very big part of some of those shows, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and another one, what's the fucking one with Peggy Carter. But what this has said now is that that's gone away. The fact that they called this the Darkhold, and that it is the Darkhold, now means that is gone. So any speculation, like everything, Agent Coulson died in the original Avengers, and he hasn't been around, basically. And I know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fit him in, and that he was the one who supplied the helicarrier for Samuel L. Jackson. I'm talking so fast. I gotta calm down. I'm excited when I go live. But that he provided the helicarrier that ended up saving everyone at the end of Age of Ultron. I know that they did that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the movies never said that. So for all intents and purposes, everything that happened in the TV universe before this new one that they're setting up, you might as well throw away. But so Agatha having the Darkhold, Agatha basically knowing history, and she said that very well. She's trained. The Darkhold foretold this, everything. Now we know that Wanda now has that book, and we'll talk about that before we end the show as well. But so Agatha being the overall big bad in this show. Some people are going to be disappointed for it, but I think that when you look at what this show is, what the story that they've been told, it's a smaller scale one, and that doesn't mean that Agatha won't show back up. There was a point in this, like Agatha has been a mentor to Wanda at certain times. She's been a bad guy. She's been a good guy. And, there was a point in this where briefly I thought they may go a different way than just making her the overall all bad guy when she was like, well, I could take this. I can save this world for you. Like, maybe that they were going to play into that. But no, she was just a bad guy. And I like how they ended her story, because Wanda saying that this is your role now, the role that she played in the WandaVision show, technically, is what she is now. Now, that leaves some questions to be answered, because, we see Wanda at the end of the show kind of take the magic away from Westview, in the hold. So did she just leave that on Agatha? But we could never see Agatha again. Agatha could pop up in Doctor Strange 2. She could pop up. Hell, if they ever decide to do a WandaVision season 2, which they possibly could, and I'll get into why I think that maybe happen a little bit later. But before we get into that, we got a couple more things to talk about. I want to talk about Monica, and just how they have basically WandaVision has served so many purposes, right? It's a backstory for where Wanda's going to end up in Doctor Strange. It tells the story of her grief. It really, it did a lot for Wanda, it did a lot for Vision, but Monica specifically, a character who debuted as an adult in this. We know her character was in Captain Marvel as a kid, but she's more than likely probably going to be the director of S.W.O.R.D. at this point. We get at the end of this show, a Skrull shows up and basically points up that she's being asked to go into space. So will that, S.W.O.R.D. was said to have kind of refocused as her time away, especially after the snap. So does that get soared back up into space? But the way that they've given her powers, and I've read some things and some blogs that some people do have some issue with that, and it is what it is. People get their powers in different and mysterious ways all the time than what happened in the comics. But I love her characterization here. I love the fact that she understands what Wanda's going through. The fact that they had this end on her saying that if I could bring my mom back, I would. And her saving the kids, the fact that that motherfucker had the nerve to shoot guns at the kids, first of all, fuck you. But the fact that Monica stood in front of it, and what we didn't get to see in this show at least, is her coming to the realization that she is superpowered and what that now makes her feel. Now that probably is going to play into Captain Marvel, her going back at Captain Marvel 2, her going back up into space, how that leads to her interacting with Captain Marvel, with their relationship, how strained that is. But the fact that she was so determined to help Wanda, and then that's the overarching thing in this show for her. If you look at it, everything that she has done in this show was to help Wanda Maximoff. Even when she was in the Hex and didn't know who she was, she helped deliver Wanda's kids. When she got out of the Hex, we know we saw it's all Wanda. But from that point on, that's how that ended on that cliffhanger. But then in that next episode, she starts, no, I understand. I felt grief. She's feeling like she understood Wanda probably better than anyone else in this show up into the end of this show. And the fact that she has really just wanted to help Wanda, building a great superhero here. I can't wait to see what they do with her in Captain Marvel 2 and what that means for the character, because it just, I love what they've done with Teyonah Parris's character and her acting and what she could mean for the MCU. When you think about the MCU wanting to, if they want to have superpowered women and show that women can do it, they have built a great leader and a character here, and someone who, I don't know if she can ever lead her own movie. I don't know if that would ever be the case, but it could be a show. Imagine a sword show with her as the lead. I could very well see it, or just a Monica Rambeau show. We can see that we can get a miniature version of Captain Marvel on the small screen, and we'll see what Disney plans to do with, I guess, phase 2 of the Disney Plus universe. But let's get into what I know we all want to talk about. We officially got the Scarlet fucking Witch in this by the end of this show. The fact that she finally has a code name, she realizes how powerful she is. What they have done with Wanda here, they could have easily made her the next big supervillain of the MCU. For very if it went a different way, or if it was a character who wasn't as sorry about the things that she did to the people. She even said it at one point in this show, and I love that we got the homage to her and Age of Ultron when she used to sneak up behind characters and kind of use the hex magic on them or whatever. But what this show has done, it showed the darkness even of heroes, right? She created the Hex. She didn't know what she was doing. She said that at one point in time. She said that, the difference between her and Agatha is that she didn't know what she was doing. And then you see when Agatha turns the townspeople against her, and everyone's like, please, first is Dottie, please, my daughter, can she come here? Can she play a role here? Where is she? And everyone else asking things, and her saying, look, I'm keeping you safe. I'm keeping you protected. This and that. She really didn't have any ill intent when she created the Hex. It was completely based off grief, her not understanding her powers, and her just being so naturally gifted in magic that she didn't know what she was doing. And so we see that grief because, things that happen, can she bounce back? There's been tons of questions asked of if Wanda can bounce back and still be a superhero after the show, considering what she did to the people that she had trapped in the Hex. I think that they show in her reactions to it and what she said is that absolutely she can be redeemed. She was somebody who was grieving. She was somebody who was dealing with possible mental health issues and who didn't understand what they're doing. And if you think about what some of us just normal people do in grief, what some of our what we do when we're depressed, what we do when we're sad, what we would give to have our loved ones back. And to imagine us to have the power to do that, to make that happen, and to be completely involuntary. She's absolutely still a hero. And I think she may be one of the most relatable characters at this point in the MCU as far as like real world things that are going on. Now, the end of the show, first, the way that she outsmarted Agatha, and this is what I think is going to play into Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness whenever we see Wanda overlap with Doctor Strange. Because keep in mind, at least, yeah, they were all in the battle of Endgame together, but we haven't seen a one-on-one conversation or interaction between these two characters for Doctor Strange to really say, oh, you're a powerful witch. So we'll see that. But she's so powerful that she, just off Agatha explaining to her what runes were and what they did, she was able to then execute that and use that to get the one up and ultimately defeat Agatha. She's so naturally talented in magic that just seeing something, and we saw her look at the runes, just seeing the runes, hearing what they do, she was then able to do that herself. That's how powerful of a character she is. Wanda Maximoff very well could be the most powerful character, most powerful hero in the MCU right now. Very well. I could be wrong. Could be Captain Marvel, could be Thor. I understand anyone who wants to say that, but she very well could. And the fact that this show ends with her studying the Darkhold, and if you look at what Agatha was able to learn and do by knowing what's in the Darkhold, imagine what a witch as powerful as naturally gifted without the education of Wanda can now do with that Darkhold. And that's going to be the craziest part of what they do and what the story that they tell. Wanda Maximoff, and fuck it, let's get into the ending. And before we get into like the end credit scene, which there were two of, we already talked. One was with Monica with the scroll, but this show ends with her realizing that she has to end the hex. And I love how they did it between Agatha, taunting her about what she did, the people of Westview explaining their pain, her coming to several realizations about herself between this and the last episode of how the hex was created. But for her and Vision at the end of all the fighting, for him to say, I know you're going to fix this place, but just not for us. And them to go and put their children, the twins, in that bed, and her knowing that more than likely she's never going to see them again. If that isn't some of the most, and I get it, being so caught up in the show, you may not, but this may have been the most powerful, and again, recency bias be damned. I get it. Death of Iron Man. Okay, besides the death of Iron Man, also besides, I don't know, for me, Thor getting Mjolnir back and finding out he's still worthy, again, mental health and things and depression playing into that, for him to see that he's still worthy after all of that, fucking amazing moment to me as well. But Wanda and Vision, Wanda specifically, knowing that all this is about to end for her, this whole world that she created with her children, all that is going to go away. Them putting the kids to bed, her saying, thank you for choosing me to be your mom or mother. I'm sorry if I don't remember the correct line. As a parent, right? As nothing more than a parent, I could never imagine knowing that was probably going to be the last time I ever get to see my children. The fucking gut punch of the 1-2 gut punch that follows with her and Vision downstairs and her turning off the lights, preparing for all this to end, and Vision turning the light back on and saying, well, I heard you should never say goodbye in the dark. And she's like, no, you didn't. He's like, no, I just wanted to see you. That whole interaction is just crazy. It's some of the most emotional shit I've ever seen in my life. And the conversation that they have there, her saying that he's her pain, he's her, but overall he's her love, the part of the Mind Stone within her, like all of that, and to see that goodbye and see the Vision to ask. This is a character who, even the original Vision, that question of what am I? Him asking that was the perfect bookend for this verse. Hell, I would say that if we didn't know that Spectral Vision is out there with his memories, if we never got Vision in another MCU project again, him being able to ask that question and get an honest answer about it would have been the perfect end for Vision as a whole if he was to stop being in the MCU today. Would have been the perfect one. But him getting to ask that question before he faded away, I think, is so respectful of what that and who that character is. Powerful shit. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional again thinking about it. And fuck you, Kevin Feige, for fucking making me get emotional about a damn woman and a robot. But it's just this show has just been powerful. It's been great. It's been amazing. And you know, so I thought that the twins were going to make it. I swore the last time I did one of these live streams that there was going to be no way in hell that they were going to end this show with Wanda having more loss. And look at how fucking wrong I am. And I couldn't be happier to be wrong, if I'm just being 100% honest. Couldn't be happier to be fucking wrong in this case, because what they did as far as a bookend for these characters was amazing. Amazing. And her, the full guise of the Hex dropping, her even leaving the car she drove that in, and this to fade away, and her to be in that lot that Vision bought for them, and the home that she created for them in several ways, to be gone. Her to put up that hood, and her to just walk and just take a look at everything that she caused, the way that the townspeople were looking at her afterwards. That conversation with Monica that I talked about before, in which Monica told her that she would bring back her mother if she could, that she understands, and you know, even playing the respect to the townspeople of Wanda saying, but they'll never forgive me for it. They'll never forget. All fucking amazing work. All fucking amazing work. And you know, I took some time after this to check the temperature of what at least the social media reaction is up until this point of this episode being released, and how many people are staying up like me to watch this shit is crazy. But you know, there are some people who are disappointed. There are some people who wanted to see a bigger bad, the people who wanted to see a bigger cameo, people who wanted to see Doctor Strange show up, all of that. This show was never really about that. This show, in hindsight, because I thought it was about it too, but in hindsight, was about a woman finding a way to deal with her grief. It isn't about planting seed. Well, they did plant seeds, but it isn't about a larger villain that's going to be for the MCU. It wasn't that. This was one of the most personal stories that has ever been told in the MCU. Ever been told. Now, there are threads that, of course, would be picked up elsewhere, as with all Marvel properties. But I don't like that we didn't get to say goodbye to Darcy. But I don't know if it's been confirmed she's going to be in Thor 3. I don't know. I haven't really been following a lot of Thor 4, I should say. I haven't been following a lot of the rumors for that right now. But man, the fact that this is where this ends and we aren't going to get this picked up until over a year from now. Doctor Strange 2, I believe, is towards the end of March. So that's where we're going to be getting Wanda again. So we got over a year to wait for that. But let's get into this image, the after credit scene. Wanda with the Darkhold. Now, we never showed her get it. You know, Agatha kind of makes it appear and disappear with magic. But it makes sense that Wanda would get it. This plays homage to us seeing Doctor Strange study a book, and like the way that this end credit scenes comes in is that she's in the middle of nowhere, basically in a cabin, and we see her walking around. Cuts to a different room. I almost expected Doctor Strange to be in that room or somebody, maybe Spectral Vision, but then we see the spectral form of Wanda studying the Darkhold, of the Scarlet Witch, who she fucking is at this point. The fact that her costume was fucking amazing. Let's go back to the other picture of her for a second. Let's just gush over how amazingly beautiful Elizabeth Olsen is, but the fact that they found a way to make Scarlet Witch's headpiece, which had been a lot of, basically since she debuted, are they going to be able to do it or not? But they found a way to do that, and it looks amazing. It doesn't look like cosplay. It doesn't look like anything. This is a fucking amazing costume, and one that I can't wait to see her just continue to don. But let's go back to the other picture. So her studying the Darkhold, and as I said, a witch who's as naturally gifted as Wanda, naturally powerful, now having a book to actually study magic and to more so know what she's doing and be more purposeful about the magic that she uses, I think is going to be a huge part of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, towards the end of this, and I don't know how many people really picked up on it, but we get it. This is the thing that the MCU does so well. We're so focused on this, looking at Wanda look like this, but you hear one of the twins, I believe it sounds like they're screaming for help. So what does that mean now? What, like, and I don't mean to throw more questions here towards the end of this stream and this conversation, but I geeked out over that because, full spoilers, we know that the boys who played the twins both posted on Instagram that they were basically in the same location and where Doctor Strange 2 is currently filming. Could be something that's used to try to convince Wanda that they're around, distract Wanda. We don't know. But the fact that she heard that, like I said, what I feel is distinctly one of the twins calling for either her or for help means that they're going to show up again. Does she pull them from a multiverse? That could very well be. Maybe that's what brings her in, is that they're in the multiverse of madness where everything's flipping out, that there is a version of her twins in one of the multiverses that she can save, that she can bring over. What does that do for somebody who's still grieving their losses? This show, I get it. People have their issues. People have their problems. And you're right to have that. We can critique art all day long. And I get it. Our expectations of things sometimes get in our way. But I think if you can go back now and binge the show almost from start to finish, which I probably will be doing, probably not this weekend, but next weekend, just give it some space and binge the show all the way from start to finish again, you can see, like, expectations be damned. Now we know what it is, and just enjoy the show without, like, the constant speculation and the worry. Like, just enjoy the show for what it is. I think people are going to like the show even more and probably be less disappointed the fact that we didn't get a bigger bad, we didn't get a huge cameo or whatever. I think people are definitely going to appreciate the show more as the show is out there and as we can continue to consume it. Now, I said before, and I'll end it on this, that I think that we can get a season 2 for WandaVision. And I do. I think that the fact that Spectral Vision is out there with his memories, I guess at this point now, he is just Vision, is out there. Original Vision is out there with his memories back. The original body, of course, with whatever Sword did to it outside of that. That what if we don't get Vision in Doctor Strange 2? We don't get Vision in Spider-Man 3. We don't get Vision in any of the other mainstream Marvel movies. But what if season 2 of WandaVision is, after everything happens with the Multiverse of Madness, her realizing, no, my love is still out there. And what if season 2, again, if they continue with this being a personal story and this first season being about grief, season 2 of WandaVision is about finding your way back to your love? What if it's about reconnecting? What if it's about how after trauma you can heal? They can go so many different ways. I always thought that WandaVision, as the show progressed, this was going to be a 1-season show. But I think what they've shown here is that if this show is going to be about Wanda and her personally and growth, that this show could keep going on. Whether the twins come back or not, that like I said, I audibly heard one of the twins. What if, she gets glimpses or does find out that maybe they are out there, or a version of them are real? We could also find out that, just like in the comics, they were real, and then after the hex went away, Mephisto took them away. We could find out a lot. But let's say that doesn't happen. Season 2 could very well be about reconnecting with the original Vision, getting him back, his identity back. Like, yes, he has his memories back, but he's probably still conflicted about everything that happened. He died and came back. And for an insightful character as Vision to find out, to not know what your purpose is in life, but then to lose your life and then to come back and be a weapon briefly. It's just so many themes that can be left here. There's so many more conversations that can be had, but that's far down the road. We know the next time we're seeing Wanda isn't Doctor Strange 2. And while I know that they did say that there's an overarching plot between WandaVision, Doctor Strange 2, and Spider-Man 3, that doesn't necessarily mean, I think people have taken that to mean that Wanda is going to be in all three of those shows. It could very well be what Wanda ended up in this series is where she picks up in some way in the Multiverse of Madness, but then Doctor Strange is the only character that picks up and goes into Spider-Man 3, because we know for sure he's in it. So there's a lot of things that are unconfirmed right now. We just know some of the overarching things, but WandaVision absolutely could be a season 2. I hope that it is a season 2, unless they tell that story in the MCU, but they did a phenomenal job with the show overall. And this finale, I think, was perfect for what the show was meant to be. Maybe it wasn't perfect for what we think that as fans it could have been and where it could have went, but as what the purpose of this show was, they executed the finale perfectly. Now, that's it. Let me know how you guys feel about it. You guys could agree, you could disagree. If you're watching it live, you can leave comments. If you're watching it after the fact, I'd love to hear how you guys really feel about the way that this show ended. Like I said, taking kind of your expectations away. Not meaning that you shouldn't have expectations, but just kind of taking that away and just really engulfing yourself in what the show actually was. Make sure you're checking out the Film Frequency podcast. Me and my brother JB there, we have an episode dropping on the true crime documentary on Netflix about the hotel. What? I'm at a loss. I'm tired. It's where I am. It's 5:53 a.m. and I've been up since about 3:30 a.m. watching WandaVision. So my brain's kind of fried right now. But make sure you're checking out the Film Frequency podcast. You can follow me personally if you choose to at CEO Haize. That's CEOHAIZE. I'll probably do another live stream. Give it a couple of days. Maybe I'll wait until next weekend when I do that binge watch again and come back and kind of do an overarching thing for WandaVision and another conversation. But we know Falcon and the Winter Soldier is coming up next. I think that show is going to be more than what a lot of people expect it to be as well. I think the themes of racism are going to be higher in that show than what we think. So we'll see about that. But I'm signing off. Again, for the Film Frequency, my name is Haize. Thank you for joining this live stream. I'm out. Peace.